Thank you for that introduction. I'm super excited to be here. So I'm excited because I get to kind of take what you just learned about I'm Determined and kind of relate it to my life experience. So you'll get like how I'm Determined and things like that have helped somebody, particularly me, and how I've grown, both from going through my IEP process to where I am now. So just a little bit about me. I'm 27 years old, live in Richmond, Virginia. Some of my hobbies include sports, hanging out with friends, politics, and all kinds of stuff. Basically all of the normal things that any 27-year-old would enjoy doing. And yes, that does include going to an occasional bar. This was me when I was born. I was born 12 weeks premature, and my dad's wedding ring fit on, I was so tiny that my dad's wedding ring fit on my wrist as if it was a bracelet. So I always joke with people, I always tell people, I guess you could say I was rocking bling at a really early age. But this shows, how tiny I was and how premature I was. As I got older and knew that I was going to be transitioning into high school, I went to J.R. Tucker High School in Henrico County. I've always been the type of person to want to be involved in certain things and want to be involved in processes. And I even as early back as middle school said, if people are in a room talking about me and talking about my IEP or talking about things that are going to help me grow, why am I not in that room and why am I not having a voice at the table to explain, like, here's what I think my strengths are, here's what I think my weaknesses are, here are the things that I think can help me be successful. So when I went to Tucker, my brother was a senior and I was going in as a freshman. And I remember a day or two before I started my freshman year, my brother gave me the best advice he could possibly give me, and it's advice that I still kind of use to this day. And it was this whole idea of get involved and stay involved. And, so I took that experience and I took that advice. I actually listened to my brother for once. I don't always do that, but I actually listened to my brother for once. And I really jumped in, wheels first, into sort of the high school experience. First, it continued to where I would be part of the IEP process. I would be in the room. I would actively speak up. The teachers that knew me know that I am not the type of person to sit there and be quiet. Again, if it is something that is going to affect my educational outcomes or be about me, I should be in that room to be able to help make decisions. And I think one of the most impactful things that educators can do, and I would even correlate this to parents as well, is like listen to what your student says or your child says and actually take that into account and actually consider that as valuable input, and don't just sort of brush it away as oh, Matthew's just, we're just glad to have Matthew here to have Matthew here and say that he's here. Take the struggles and the positives and the negatives that those students are expressing and utilize them in the IEP or in the school setting. I was involved in the IEP so much that by the time it was my senior year and we were getting ready to sort of have my last IEP meeting, I led my IEP meeting with the help of my case manager. So I had gone through that entire process of first kind of sitting in the meeting, not really doing much, and as the years progressed, I got more and more involved. In addition to that, I got involved in a ton of activities at Tucker when I was there. Again, going back to the get involved and stay involved kind of mantra. When I was a freshman, I was the freshman class president. I ran for and won freshman class president. I was on the student newspaper staff for 4 years. I was the editor-in-chief for 2 years, my junior and senior year. I was the manager of the boys varsity basketball team and would go to practice every day and kind of run the clock at practice and be part of that whole environment, and really, again, sort of dove all the way into the full high school experience to the best that I could. And with that, I would say, I would encourage so often we as teachers and we as parents want to protect and shelter and keep safe our young people that have disabilities. But it's okay to let them get involved in some of these activities. And one of the things I always say is, it's okay also if they fail, right? We're so afraid of failure, particularly with students with disabilities. But I always say that, you learn best from your failures, and you say, well, it didn't work that way, so let me try it a different way and see if I can have a different outcome. And so let your students get involved in extracurriculars and be part of the school community more than just in the classroom. Because we need our parents and our teachers to give us those opportunities to show that we can be successful, to show leadership, to show that we are more than just our diagnosis or more than just our disability. We are people, and we have passions, we have interests, we have all kinds of things, but we need people who are willing to support us and to say, yeah, I will, I'll use my parents as an example. Yeah, my mom would pick me up every day after school at, 5:30 after basketball practice, and we would go to all of the basketball games, home and away, and I would sit on the bench. I created a relationship with the coach where he would let me sit on the end of the bench with the team and be part of that experience. But I was so grateful for my parents to take that time to pick me up from practice and pick me up from newspaper when we were on deadlines and different things like that, to really be ingrained in that school experience. And the other thing was, people knew who I was around campus, right? Like I was very popular. People knew, and that's not me bragging, but I was known around campus because I was so involved in so many different aspects. So we really need people to give us those opportunities. In addition to doing everything in high school, I got involved in a ton of amazing youth programs. One you just heard about. There's another one, it's now called the Youth Leadership Academy, and I did that my junior year of high school, and I have a funny story when it comes to that. My mom signed me up for it, and she didn't tell me that she was doing it. So at that time, I was like, well, crud, I'm gonna miss a week of my summer. I was kind of mad at her at the time, really was not about going to it was at one point called the Youth Leadership Forum. It's now called the Youth Leadership Academy. But at that time, I was like, I don't want to go to this. I don't want to miss any part of my summer. And she dropped me off at CNU at the time, which is where it took place. And she says that I didn't say bye to her, but I don't remember or recall that scenario. But she distinctly remembers that on a regular basis and reminds me of it on a regular basis too. But I dove, also outside of school, I dove into these programs. And I got involved let me go back one second. I got involved in I'm Determined and what you just heard about and how great of a program that is as well. So getting ingrained in those worlds was tremendously, tremendously important. I also got involved with civic engagement, and I'm a political nerd. I love politics. It's kind of bad, I guess you could say, but I've been very fortunate to, I've interned for the Obama administration. I'm a current lobbyist, where I lobby down at the General Assembly on behalf of disability issues and disability organizations. You can see the picture in the lower right-hand corner there. Yes, that is me, very, very close to President Obama. And I just love that picture, but I got involved with different boards and different community outlets to be involved in that civic engagement. Again, going back to getting involved and staying involved, even outside of the school environment. So I've transitioned out of high school. I knew that I wanted to go to a four-year institution. And it's funny, I tell this story frequently too. In that last IEP meeting where I led, we had a very several awkward moments actually, because there were some DARS counselors around the room and some other folks around the room who had suggested, well, why doesn't Matthew go to community college? And let me preface this by saying I have nothing against community colleges. The community college route is great for some. It was not the route that I wanted to go. And it got so contentious to the point where, like, my aide at the time had to speak up and say, I think Matthew can attend a four-year institution right away and be successful. Because I was striving to be the best version of myself that I could be. And I knew that if I could go to a four-year institution and be successful there, that would be achieving that. And it was even so much so, I'll say really quick, going back to high school really quickly, my junior and senior year, I started out in K-12, I started out in collaborative classes and taking special education classes. But by the time I was in my junior and senior year, I was trying to push myself so much academically that I was in honors and AP courses to just try and see if I could sort of cut the mustard, so to speak. I didn't do well on AP tests. I never do well. I've never done well on standardized tests, but that's okay. I just wanted to see how I could do academically. So again, when I went to VCU, I continued to live by the mantra of get involved and stay involved. And that's exactly what I did. I joined a fraternity. I am a founding father of the Phi Kappa Psi chapter at VCU. I'm actually badge number 6 of the fraternity. I started a Disability History and Awareness Week on campus. I was the one student. I approached our disability office and said, look, I want to have a week where we have different events that highlight disability, not only to the students that have disabilities, but the whole campus community as a whole. And I actually, I'm going to see something really quick. I actually did better, I would say, academically in college than I did in K-12, because I utilized all of the tools that I had available to me. There's teaching assistants, there's office hours, there's all kinds of great stuff that, you know, I talked about. I think I said earlier that I struggled in math, and in K-12, I was very fortunate enough if I was able to get a C in a math class, and I was doing, you know, jumping up and down if I was getting a C in a math class. When I went to college, the first class I had to take on my first day of college was math, so I was like, great, this is just going to be wonderful. But I utilized my teaching assistant, and then I ended up getting out of that class with an A, right? So I utilized the tools that I had available to me to make myself a better student. This was sort of touched on a little bit in the last presentation, but I also utilized a lot of what I'm Determined taught me, and the I'm Determined tools taught me to be the person that I am today. So I'm going to kind of go through just my I'm Determined tools really quickly. There's 3. There's the OnePager, there's the Good Day Plan, and there's the Goal Setting Plan. So OnePager is a tool that is really great for someone to use in an IEP meeting. It highlights someone's strengths, their weaknesses, their learning preferences, and their interests. So again, some of my interests are like sports, hanging out with friends and family. My learning preferences are to hear things out loud, because I'm an auditory learner, different things like that. So I actually would take my OnePager and take it to teachers when I was introducing myself and say, like, this was in K-12 more than in college, because by the time I got into college, I kind of had these mindsets sort of ingrained into my mind. Like, yes, I was using these tools, but I wasn't necessarily like looking at the tool every day, right? Because I had those mindsets built into my, like, into the fabric of who I am as a person. The next one is the Good Day Plan. And this is really good for people who have, for some reason, might have some behavioral challenges, whether it's like, I know I use this example with my mom all the time and she gets mad, but if my mom doesn't get her coffee in the morning, it's going to be a bad day. So, you know, it takes the person through their day-to-day, and it's, you know, what is the task? Were you able to accomplish that task? Yes or so, how often are you able to accomplish that task? Sometimes, often, or never. what is the reason that you're unable to, if you're not achieving that task, what is the reason? And then who is somebody that can help you achieve that task? So I'll use one example on mine. One of mine is getting to sleep, getting enough sleep. And so does that task of me getting enough sleep happen? My answer to that would be sometimes. And the reason that it doesn't happen is because I probably spend too much time watching my TV shows, and I probably need to go to bed a little bit earlier. And so that is a mindset shift that I have to have. So who can help me with that task? It can be my parents. It can be me kind of setting alarms for myself. It can be any sort of friends or family. But using a tool like the Good Day Plan can really help to determine where the individual, what is causing that behavioral challenge, or what is the thing that is triggering that behavioral challenge. The last tool is the goal setting plan. And this is really, really good for somebody who knows that they have a goal, but they don't necessarily know the steps that they need to take to get there. So my goal setting plan was to develop a really and hopefully successful consulting business. So I knew that the outcomes would be I would get more money, I'd be able to travel, I would be able to make a difference. The things that I needed to do in order to get there was be able to make a logo, make a website, make programs that I can provide to schools, all kinds of things like that. And then who could help me do that? Again, parents, friends, family, all kinds of things like that. So this tool really helps an individual kind of synthesize, I have a goal, here's how I can reach that goal, and it gives them kind of a roadmap to reaching that goal. And for me, I've been able to reach that goal that I outlined. When I graduated from school, I was having a hard time finding a job. So one night, as most good things occur, when I was laying in bed, I had this brilliant idea of let me take my now 15 plus years of doing advocacy, doing speaking, thinking about disability and living disability, and try and turn it into a consulting business. And so that's where Six Wheels Consulting was born. It's called Six Wheels because there are 6 wheels on my chair. There are 2 front ones that no one ever sees, but we still count those. And it's just great branding because it's 6 wheels. And so why did I start Six Wheels? Again, one of my big goals with Six Wheels is to get people to think differently about how we think about disability. Not to say that the way we've thought about disability for the last 28 years or however long the ADA has been around is wrong, but I think we could be going above and beyond what's required by the ADA, or making our society more fully inclusive so that something can be compliant but still not be inclusive. I can't tell you how many times I go to hotels are the perfect example, and it'll say that it'll be it'll be an ADA accessible room, and I'll get there and it doesn't work because I use a Hoyer lift, and so I can't get my lift under the bed because it's a platform bed. Again, that room is ADA compliant but not completely user friendly to my needs. So there are barriers to that. I'm going to speed through the last couple of these, but how do I do all of this work? I do consulting where I do assessments of spaces, not necessarily from an ADA perspective, but again, kind of from a common sense approach to make things more inclusive and open-minded to people with disabilities. I do lobbying services. I love that picture. That's a great picture. I do lobbying so that I can help organizations maybe get their legislation passed in the General Assembly and help fight for disability issues. And then I also do public speaking at schools, at universities. Would love to go. I have many different types of programs. You can find out a lot of that information at my table. I can do churches. I can really do anybody to, again, think differently about how we're thinking about disability, because I think if we can make our world more fully inclusive and open-minded, it ends up making the world a better place, not only for people with disabilities, but when you throw in the elderly population into that population, and when you throw in people who have chronic illnesses, that makes that number even larger. So why not set up a world that helps to serve those people? Just real quick, some successes. I've done a project with the city of Richmond. I've done a project with Henrico County where I did an assessment of their library system, where I've actually, I met with the county manager in Henrico and gave a report. That's the picture you see there on the bottom of me prepping for that meeting. My lobbying successes, I'm currently the lobbyist for the Association of People Supporting Employment First. And so I hope to get their, or I try to help to get their agenda passed in the General Assembly. And then public speaking, I do so much of this. I've spoken at many diversity events, again, to get people to think differently about disability. I love public speaking. My greatest strength is my ability to talk. Sometimes my mom would tell me to shut up on occasion, but that's okay. But I try to utilize that strength to the best of my ability. Because of all this great work, I was fortunate enough to receive an award from the Metropolitan Business League, where the governor actually gave me the award. And so that to me just says what I'm doing is right, and people are recognizing that. So just very, very proud to receive the Social Vision Award. And I got that last year, I believe. And who have helped me get here? Obviously, my family. Without them, I wouldn't be able to have the support system that I have, and have them be able to take me places that I need to go. Or my mom's always down to travel and go places, so that's always great. And then I also have a great friend system that my parents are so great in that they let my friends take my van and we go and we drive places. Like this past weekend, I went with two friends to the UVA football game. We're season ticket holders, and my parents didn't even go. We took the van, my buddy drove the van, we went to Charlottesville, went to the game, came home. My parents loved it because I wasn't around and they had a nice peaceful night, but to have that friend and support system in place is incredible. Just really quick, again, have your student be involved in the IEP process or in the process in general. Have them get involved in I'm Determined. And the last thing I would say is don't ever sort of stifle one's dreams. Like if your student or your child comes to you and says, I want to be a race car driver. Okay, maybe they won't be behind the wheel of the race car, but maybe they can work in the race car environment in some way, shape, fashion, or form so that they can be living that passion and be part of that world. So just don't ever think something is a little too crazy.